With more on this story, we have our chief foreign editor with us here in studio, Rob Parsons. Rob, sticking with Ukraine and the implications of these deepening tensions between Kyiv and Washington. This as a press conference between President Zelensky and Ukraine Special Envoy was now canceled. This doesn't seem like a good sign. Rob, what happened, you think, in that meeting on Thursday between President Zelensky and Keith Kellogg?
Well, we don't really know is the honest answer to that, but quite clearly there was some frank talking that went on between the two. It should be said from the outset that Keith Kellogg, who's the U.S. Special Envoy to Ukraine for Donald Trump, in the presidential entourage of Donald Trump, is probably the most sympathetic towards Ukraine. So this will have been an important meeting for Zelensky to try and get his point of view across. He clearly feels he's being misunderstood by Donald Trump, also being excluded by Donald Trump. He'll have tried to get both those concerns across. They decided to drop both a statement and a press conference, and that's really, I think, the most interesting thing out of this. What does it tell us? Perhaps it tells us that Keith Kellogg doesn't entirely have the trust or support of the Trump administration. But also I think it's a reflection of the fact that relations at the moment between Trump and Zelensky are far from being at their best. And the fear would have been, I think, that if a press conference had been held in Kyiv, where there is a lot of anger towards the United States and Donald Trump in person because of the comments he made about Volodymyr Zelensky, that a press conference could have exacerbated the relationship even more because the questioning of Kellogg by Ukrainians would have been very tough indeed. So I think those are the main takeaways. Probably Zelensky will be hoping, and he said the meeting went very well, he got these points of view across. He's hoping that this will restore hope. He's hoping that Kellogg will go back to Trump and explain what the concerns of the Ukrainians are and try to reset the relationship, pour oil on troubled waters.
And Rob, the Trump team seems to be doubling down on Donald Trump's abrasive message to Ukraine. Yeah. What can you tell us?
Well, I mean, we just saw that report, which we ran now. As you say, they're doubling down. Both the National Security Advisor Michael Waltz and J.D. Vance, the vice president, both coming out with pretty strong statements in support of Donald Trump and very critical of Volodymyr Zelensky. Michael Waltz, the national security advisor, saying that, obviously, Donald Trump very frustrated with the comments that Volodymyr Zelensky has been making, by the criticisms, by the insults, as he put it, of Zelensky to Donald Trump, though it's not clear what insults were made. All he seems to have said is that Donald Trump appears to be in a disinformation bubble, which is a point of view that many, if not most, European leaders would certainly agree with. And he said that Zelensky needs to get back to the negotiating table. What he was referring to here, and we had some mention of it in that report we just saw, is the deal between the United States and Ukraine for the exploitation of rare earth minerals in Ukraine, a deal that Donald Trump presented to Zelensky worth about $500 billion US dollars, but presented just 3 hours before a meeting between Zelensky and the US Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent. For understandable reasons, Volodymyr Zelensky didn't sign off on it. There were things about it which he found unacceptable. For instance, he couldn't understand where the $500 billion figure came from. It seemed to be Trump's suggestion that that was the amount of money that Ukraine effectively owed the United States for the military support it had given over the last 2-3 years. In any case, Zelensky threw it back and pointed out that, first of all, before anything could be agreed on, the Ukrainian parliament, the Verkhovna Rada, had to sign off on it. So it seems now that the United States may be coming back with a second revised offer. Zelensky has promised to look very closely at it, so maybe there's a bit of room for wriggling out of the impasse they've got themselves into.
That was our chief foreign editor for us, Rob Parsons. Thank you so much.